Hello, listeners. I'm doing something a little bit different here. I'm hosting a pod ad swap with the wonderful, wonderful ladies over at Teacher Think Aloud podcast. That's Anna and Shay. They are professors who talk about teaching English, teaching diverse students, and the interactions of the teacher and students in a way that students feel more accepted, feel heard, and it's just a great way to reflect on your own personal practice. So they'll give a better intro than that, but here is a quick 43-second hello from them, and if you like them, go ahead and go listen to them. All right, let's begin.
Are you an English language educator looking to grow and feel more confident in your career? I'm Anna.
And I'm Shay.
And we're the hosts of the Teacher Think Aloud podcast, your source for classroom inspiration, teaching tips, and career advice.
On the podcast, we interview ELT experts from around the world to discuss the latest TESOL trends and issues. From AI for language learning to the foundations of English language teaching, we cover the gamut of ELT topics, all in a fun and insightful format. Listen to us on your commute, while working out, or whenever you consume your podcasts.
Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, listeners, to Sandman Stories Presents, a folklore podcast where I read you to sleep or until the next story. I'm your host, Dustin. And if you want more Sandman that's too spicy for the main feed, go ahead and check us out on Patreon. I say us, it's me. And you'll see my research, any sort of stories that are too spicy for the main feed. I put all that over there. And today we are back in the Book of Indian Folklore written down by Dracott. In the first story, the rajah is inquisitive, but he may have rushed to judgment. Can his wise old mother-in-law get him straightened out? And in the second story, we have a quick stepmother story which only the daughter is someone to root for. Okay, let's begin. Bickermanji the Inquisitive. There was a certain rajah whose name was Bickermanji. He was very inquisitive, and he always wished to know everything that was going on in his kingdom, and what his subjects were doing. At night, he disguised himself in common clothes and a blanket, and walked quietly in the streets and bazaars to spy on people. Next day, when complaints were brought to him of doings of this or that person, he knew all about it. In this way, he observed that a certain woman, the wife of a bunia, used to leave her home every night carrying a clay pot called a chatti on her head and carrying some food. Arriving at the river, she floated the chatti and sat upon it, thus getting a passage to the other side, where she visited the fakir. Early in the morning, she returned, carrying a chatti full of water for the day's use, and since this was a normal custom of the native women in the East, it was never suspected that she spent nearly the whole night away from her home. Bickermanji observed all this, and wondered to himself how the matter would end. One day, the woman's husband, who had been away in another country, came back, so she had to make his food. That being so, she could not sneak away as early as usual. When she arrived, the fakir was upset with her late arrival, and because she made excuses because her husband was home. "What do I care about your husband?" said the fakir. "Is he better than a holy man? Go this moment and bring me his head." This she did, much to the fakir's surprise. But instead of being pleased at her obedience to his wishes, he was angry and said, "If you killed your husband, you will one day kill me also." So he drove her from his presence, and she returned to her own home, where, upon taking her husband's head upon her knee, she set up a great weeping and lamentation which attracted all her neighbors and brought them all together. "My husband has only just returned from a journey bringing his money, and see, the thieves have stolen his money and murdered him during the night." Her neighbors believed this and prepared to carry her husband to the burning ghat, for he was a Hindu. While they did this, the woman was declared that she would follow, and she would perform the sacred rite of the sutti, or being burnt upon her husband's funeral pyre. Although impressed by her supposed devotion to her husband, her friends wrote to Bickermanji and begged him to stop her. Bickermanji knew all that had really happened, and was meant to show his own wisdom and the woman's crime, also to punish her as he thought best. So he promptly forbade the sati. The widow then wrote to the Rajah Bickermanji's stepmother, a very clever woman, and asked her to intercede, that she may die with her husband. Then his stepmother said, "My son, allow this sati to take place, and with 8 days I will give you my reasons." This aroused the curiosity of his nature, and much against his will he consented, so the woman had her own way. He waited impatiently for the 8 days to be over, and then he went to his stepmother, who ordered a dooli, and taking a goat with her, asked him to accompany her to the nearest temple. Arriving there, she asked him to stand at the door, and left the goat outside. "When I come to the door, if I say kill, you are to kill the goat. But if not, stay where you are," were the old woman's instructions, as she went to make her offering of fruit and flowers and sweets. Soon she returned and said kill, so Bickermanji cut off the head of the goat. "Sit upon the head, my son." He did as he was told, but no sooner had he done so, when the head rose up into the air with him, away through the space of hundreds of miles, until he came to the wall which surrounded a space of 12 miles squared. In this was a garden and a beautiful house, and after wandering around for some little time, Bickermanji found food and water, and a comfortable couch to lie upon, and a hookah to smoke. But not a human being was seen anywhere. This puzzled him, but as he was both hungry and tired, he made a good meal, smoked his hookah, and lay down to sleep. "If I sleep, I sleep. If I die, I die. A man can die but once." Now the place belonged to an Indian fairy called a puri, who used to come during the night and stay away all day. The servants had come an hour or two beforehand, just to see that everything was comfortable, and when they found Bickermanji lying fast asleep, they wished to kill him. But an old woman interceded on his behalf, so they left him alone until the puri came. Bickermanji was greatly surprised to see a strange winged creature standing before him, and expected immediate death. But the strange one spoke kindly, and begged him not to fear, but to make the place like his home for as long as he liked. Each day passed quietly, and in the pleasures and ease of this present existence, Bickermanji soon forgot about his kingdom, his wife, and his children. Before going away one morning, the puri said, "There are 4 rooms in this house which you must never open. I will point them out to you, but, for the rest, you may use them as you will." This request at once excited Bickermanji's old spirit of curiosity, and as soon as he found himself alone, he went quickly to the door of the first room and opened it. Within stood a horse, which turned gladly towards him and said, "I have not seen the light of day, or had an hour's freedom, ever since I was given to the fairy by the Rajah Sudra. If you take me out, I will show you all the world, and even the secret place where the fairies dance." Bickermanji was delighted and immediately led out the horse, which he saddled, mounted, and rode for a wonderful and delightful ride. In the evening, the fairy, or puri, again warned him against opening any of the forbidden doors. But the very next day, he opened the second one and found a large elephant chained up. The elephant complained bitterly of its fate and begged Bickermanji to pity it and take it out, which, if he did, it would in return show him much that was wonderful in the world. So Bickermanji again had a very interesting day. The following day he opened up the third door and found a camel inside. It too took him to all sorts of new places, which were the haunts of the fairy beings. Now only one door was left. Bickermanji was determined to open that also, and when he did, he beheld a donkey standing inside. The donkey complained just as the other animals had done, and begged for its release. But as Bickermanji mounted it for his usual ride, he found himself back in his old kingdom. "My back aches," said the donkey. "Leave me a while to rest, and you go, in the meantime, to the nearest bazaar for food. When you return, you will find me here." But when Bickermanji had returned, there was no donkey to be seen, so he tore his hair and wept bitterly, and asked all the passers-by if they had seen his gudi, or donkey. Many of the inhabitants of the town recognized him and said, "Our rajah has come back and is asking for his guddi," which in Hindustani means throne as well as donkey. At last his stepmother heard of his return and sent for him. He told her that he would give anything to be able to return to the place where the donkey had brought him from. "Was it not I who sent you there?" she replied. "And could I not send you back again? What are you willing to do in order to return? Are you willing to slay your own son to go?" "Yes, I would do even that." "Well, come with me as before to the temple, only instead of a goat, take your son with you and a sword. When I say kill, you must kill, but not before." So the three went to the temple, and the stepmother stood in the doorway and cried kill. But before the Rajah could raise his sword, she rushed forward and seized it. "Stop! Do not kill your son! Do you remember the Sati, and how you judged her and wished to punish her for killing her husband on account of a friend? And now you will kill your own son for the sake of pleasure? All that has happened has been done to teach you a lesson. Go to your palace, and therefore reign with greater wisdom than before. The moral is, judge not, that ye be not judged." The end. Okay, and the second story, The Brahmin's Daughter. A certain Brahmin's wife had no affection for her 7 stepdaughters, and persuaded their father to get rid of them. So he invited the girls to come with him on a visit to their grandmother. But on the way, he slipped away quietly and left them eating plums in the jungle. After a while, they found themselves all alone, and as night fell, they were very frightened, and hid themselves in the hollow of a large tree. Here, a tiger found them and ate 6, leaving only the youngest sister alive. She hid in the tree for several days, and at last a Rajah found her and asked her how she got there. Then she told him the whole story, and he felt pity for her and married her. But she often wondered what had become of her father, and whether he was alive or dead, and when she remembered the fate of her sisters, she secretly made up her mind to get revenge on her stepmother. Then she called a crow and asked if it would go to her former home with a letter from her. In the letter, she told her father of her sister's fate and of her own good fortune. The crow carried the news to her father, and, greatly surprised, he read the contents of his daughter's letter to his wife. The woman was a mercenary as well as cruel, and she advised him to lose no time in visiting her and bringing back all the money he could secure. So the Brahmin went and spent 8 or 9 days in the palace. As he was preparing to return home, the girl called to him and gave him a box containing a snake, a scorpion, and a wasp. As it was securely locked, he had no suspicion of the contents. "Take this," she said, "and give it with the key to my mother. Let her be alone in a room when she receives it, so that she may enjoy my gifts by herself." Then she gave him another box full of clothes and jewels and money for himself. After a long time, the Brahmin arrived at his home and said to his wife, "This box is for me, and this one is for you. Keep it carefully and open it when you're alone. Here's the key." So saying, he went out and shut the door and put on the chain. Soon the woman began to cry, "I am bitten, I am bitten." But he mistook it for, I have eaten, meaning that he should come and share the feast. So he replied, "I have my own share, you eat what's your own share." When he opened the door, he found her dead. So he packed up his things and returned to his daughter, and lived happily ever after. The end. Wow, the ending of that second story, they sound like an awful family. And there are echoes of other stories from other cultures with wicked stepmom and 7 daughters. And the first story seems a bit all over the place. It seems like a story that would be much better understood in its original language, but oh well. And there are 14 stories left, so probably another 5 episodes or so. and I'll be replacing it with an Arab and Persian folktale book. And the podcast shout-out is to the History of English. Kevin does a great job of marrying history and linguistics, and it is a whole college-level course for free, done by somebody who loves the language, so go and listen. And the listener shout-out is to Chandigarh, the capital of Punjab. It's only been around since 1953, when the city of Lahore was ceded to Pakistan. And if I'm lucky enough to visit the Chandi's fort, I would love to go and see the Rose Festival. And so I say to my listener in Chandigarh, I say, Davinvada Atta Subra Ratri. Thank you, and good night.